Well, the gay Tupac is free. Free at last. Free at last. God Almighty, son, the gay Tupac is free at last. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to True Crime Loser. How you doing? Real quick, if you want to support this channel, which I would appreciate, there's a Patreon link in the description. So, today we're talking about old Jussie Smollett. And if you remember the last video I did on him, the whole kind of theme of the video was that I couldn't believe that he pleaded not guilty, because I figured, since it's being a nonviolent crime, he could do a plea deal, plead way down, get a bunch of those felonies thrown out, do some, community service, pay a huge fine, and then just keep it moving, be on his way. But then they came in and proudly said not guilty. And I was like, damn, there's no way he's going to go to trial and just, the evidence that they came forward and the evidence they gave to the grand jury to come back with 16 felonies, it's got to be something. And so to just sit there in the courtroom while the cops are like, yeah, so here's the pictures of them buying the stuff, here's the phone records of them coordinating as that's coming up, here's the testimony from the brothers. I just couldn't see it happening. It's like that trial would have been a bloodbath. And so I was like, couldn't believe that he pled not guilty. Well, a couple days ago, in what I considered the craziest thing that's happened with our justice system since I've started following true crime, is a couple days ago, I was just out on the streets and I start getting all these texts from people being like, all charges dropped, done. All charges had been dropped. His record has been wiped clean. So I was like, what is going on? Right? And so I get on and there's all these stories, record wiped clean, Chicago prosecutors drops everything, and it's like, what is going on? And then, so there's this like emergency court hearing. At first, Jussie and his lawyer were like, we want cameras in the courtroom. We want the public to see, okay? The gay Tupac wants the public to see. And it was like, okay, this is gonna be entertaining. And then all of a sudden it was like emergency court appearance called, and they're behind closed doors, and they come up with this deal, and then the records are sealed. And then, so after this secret court hearing where all the records are sealed and behind closed doors, and then the first people to come out of the courtroom and to talk to the press, which I don't think is a coincidence, I think it was part of the deal, is, we'll do this deal, but we get to come out and make the first statement. So then the first statement was by Jussie's lawyer being like, after the Chicago police department and the prosecutors looked at the evidence, they figured that because Jussie is such a sweet boy, that all the charges are going to be dropped. And they made it sound like the evidence just wasn't there. And then Jussie comes on and he makes just a sad statement. Just like, it's like a minute and 20 seconds. And he's not even really like, the stuff he's telling the truth about, he's looking around. He's looking at everyone like, you know what, this has really been the hardest time of my life. And, you can tell it's honest. And then any time that he's like, I'm not capable of even one drop of what they're accusing me of, anytime he's saying like that, which is just bullshit, he's just looking down the whole time. So he's like, this has been the worst time of my life. If I was capable of one drop of what they accuse me of, I just wouldn't be my mother's son. And then he looks up, and he's like, yeah, this has been tough, but also... And so he does this little 1 minute and 22 second interview, and then they're done. And I think everybody was left being like, wait, what? What do you mean they just dropped the charges? A grand jury just indicted him with 16 felonies. So there's something in the evidence. So my first thought was maybe the two brothers that he allegedly, right, all this is allegedly. This whole video is allegedly. It's just my opinion. Don't fucking sue me. So the two brothers that he allegedly paid to do this, I was thinking maybe they clammed up and just were like, we're not going to talk. You know, we didn't, everything we said actually was a lie. And so if their testimony was all of a sudden yanked, I was like, maybe that's why they just dropped the charges, but then, so they come out, his lawyers and him come out first and give their little speech, like, hey, just is a sweet boy. And so then all the news stories are like, they dropped the charges, his record is wiped clean, the records are sealed. It's like straight out of an Orwell book, like the records are sealed and the truth has been changed. And there was this feeling of, wait, what happened? What happened? But then it was a thing of like, oh. I was laughing like Jussie's like, at first it was a thing of like, oh, I got 16 felonies. But then it became a thing of like, oh, I'm connected with powerful people. And then it became a thing of like, oh, I'm getting off. So after they come out, bunch of news stories, Chicago drops the charges. No one knows what's going on. What the hell? But then the Chicago police came out and were like, whoa, 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 whoa. Nothing happened with the evidence. We had no idea this was happening. What's going on? And then the Chicago mayor comes out and he's like, this is just insane. Like, we had no idea this was going to happen. This shouldn't have happened. Just like everybody else, we're like, what's going on? Okay, so what happened? So essentially, like I said in my other video, I can't believe he's not pleading down. Right? You're not going to go to trial with the evidence that they laid out with 16 felonies. It's just too risky. And so it's like, how are you not going to do a plea deal? Well, he kind of did. He did sort of like a privileged plea deal. The old privileged plea deal. Which, think about how crazy this is. The state prosecutor of Chicago met secretly, in the sense that it was behind the back of the media, the judge, the police department, the mayor, met with the defense attorney behind everybody's back and brokered a deal, a privileged plea deal where he can, it's the same as a plea deal, except he doesn't have to plead guilty. It's a plea deal without having to take any of the responsibility and being like, yo, I blew it, you guys. Made a terrible mistake. I wanted to promote my music career. I made the worst mistake of my life. I got all caught up in the politics of the time, and I just blew it. I am the gay Tupac, but I blew it. I figured something like that will happen. Well, the privilege plea deal, you don't have to. You get all of the perks of a plea deal where it's like a bunch of the stuff is thrown out. And so they made a deal behind closed doors and behind everyone's back, which is just nuts. Imagine if the prosecutor for like the Chris Watts case or something made a deal like that. It's just, I've never seen anything like it. And watching all the shows and everybody talk about it, everybody's like legal analyst for the TV network is like, I don't know. This is territory. And so they came up with this deal that he has to do 2 days of community service, forfeit the 10 grand bond that he paid, and then the record is wiped clean. And the records are sealed. And then I think part of the deal was that they get to come out of the courtroom first and make the first statement. Because if you talk to the state prosecutors for Chicago are like, no, he's guilty. We all think he's guilty. The evidence that the police department put together said he's guilty. And we all think he's guilty, but he just made this deal where, 2 days community service, 10,000 fine. He's not a violent criminal. He's not, so that's what we did. But Jussie and his lawyer get to sort of spin it another way. They're like, they dropped the charges. They did the right thing. They looked at the evidence. The evidence was weak. Jussie didn't have to do community service. Jussie didn't have to pay a fine. He's completely innocent. So even though he doesn't really, because the public, I watched every shows from Fox News all the way to the Young Turks, and no one is on his side. No one is co-signing this dude. And so, but I think what it's for, the privileged plea deal, what that is now he gets to go out and he doesn't have that, I pled guilty to hoaxing a hate crime. He can always, for the rest of his life, just be like, no, they dropped the charges. I didn't do it. He always has that. But at the end of the day, it's like, dude, you're just living a lie. Have fun with that. Have fun with that, bro. All right, and so let me see where we're at. So the police are just livid over this. The mayor is just livid. The people of Chicago are livid, and everyone is just wondering what happened. And this is where it just takes a twist into, like, it sounds like a movie. And so the head prosecutor recused herself a couple weeks into the investigation because she had been texting with Michelle Obama's chief of staff about, like, the chief of staff for Obama had texted her and being like, hey, the Smollett family is concerned with the investigation. And it's like, yeah, I bet. It's a bad investigation. He did a really bad thing, so they should be very concerned. But it's like this chief of staff is texting the prosecutor, and it almost sounds like the mafia. It's like, hey, the family is concerned about the investigation, and we should. They wanted to get the FBI to take over the investigation, and what else was with they were saying, and the prosecutor's like, I don't know, let me see what I can do, and let me see if I can help. And the chief of staff for Obama is like, that would be amazing, that would be a big win for us. And it's like, how is it a big win for you? It's just Jussie faked a hate crime, and now he's got to deal with it. I don't see why it's this bigger, but that's what it is. I mean, he's obviously connected. I don't know if it's this whole Obama thing. It makes sense that obviously the Obamas are pretty powerful in Chicago, so if any family can just make a phone call. But even if it wasn't the Obamas or someone powerful made a phone call for old Jussie and got him this deal that I've never seen anyone else get, the privileged plea deal. And then, so everyone's livid, right? And then in the next couple days, like yesterday and the day before, Jussie's lawyer goes and does all the shows. And it's insane to watch her do these interviews, because the state prosecutor's office, the head prosecutor for Chicago, and the assistant state prosecutor that was actually the one talking with the Obama people that recused herself, being like, yeah, sorry, I probably shouldn't work on this case. I just talked to, all of them are like, yeah, we consider him guilty, of course. Like, that was always, we agreed that, we just thought that a nonviolent crime, it probably would have been a media circus. We just thought that 10,000 in 2 days community service. So all the prosecutors, the police, the mayor, everyone's like, yeah, like, look at the evidence. I mean, you can look at it. We thought, he's guilty, but this was the deal. But Jussie's lawyer is there just in la-la land, just in nutso land, just being like, yeah, they just dropped all the charges. The cops made a mistake. And yeah, he's completely innocent. So he's just looking to get another showbiz job. If anyone's hiring for a hit movie role, look, Jussie is innocent. So these interviews that his lawyer has been doing have just been insane because she's just like, yeah. They're like, well, what about the state prosecution saying he's guilty? And she's like, yeah, well, no. I mean, what do you say? They're sticking to a story, and something that she said was just crazy yesterday is they were like, someone that's innocent doesn't, let's just say that Jussie is totally innocent. He got attacked by noose wielding, Trump supporting black guys that are racist against Jussie, another black guy. So let's just pretend that that is what happened. And so picture Jussie, gets attacked, noose around his head, liquid on him, horrible. And then the cops think he did it, and so he gets charged. If that's what you go through, you're not going to just let the state have your money. Like if you're innocent and you get charged $10,000, you're gonna sue. You're not only gonna get the $10,000 back, but you're gonna sue the police department for jerking you around, ruining your career. And the fact that he's like, nah, I'll forfeit the 10 grand. I just want to like move on. I just want to move on from this. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure you do, Jussie. But you got to have a little decency to just move on, and you don't. And so this is going to be your thing for a while. And but so his lawyer's doing all these interviews, and they're like, well, what about the state prosecutor just saying he's guilty? And she's just, oh yeah, well, he's not. And they're like, well, why wouldn't he want to sue, or why wouldn't he want to get his money back, or why wouldn't he want to why would he just do community service? That doesn't make any sense for someone that's innocent. And then she's like, well, he just wants it all to go away. And that the type of attack that it is, he wasn't beat up that bad. That's what she said. He was like, he wasn't beat up that bad. And so he just wants it to go, he just wants it all to be behind him. And it's like, not beat up that bad. Say if it's true. If it's true and two people came up and put a noose around, she was like, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. It's like, if it's true and someone came up and put a noose around his neck, how can you say that's not that serious? A black dude just trying to get a sandwich from Subway has a noose put around his neck and beat up, roughed up, and called the N-word. And you're being like, it's not that serious. It's not that serious if he paid a couple people to do it and you just want it to like die. But if that's real and you're not saying that's serious, then I mean, I think like, how do you even? That's crazy. That's just nuts. And so now Jussie is, and I guess that Trump said that the FBI and the DOJ are going to investigate the whole thing of dropping the charges and making sure, but I don't think anything's going to come from that. So now Jussie's just out. He's just a person like you or me. He already did his 2 days community service. The 10 grand has been chalked up. And it's like, what is he going to do now? How can he do an interview or what's he going to do? Nobody is co-signing this dude. And he wants to just work in show business. I don't know. It is crazy. I think this would be a good time to check your pictures because, all I can really think is some call came in from way up, someone really powerful, and it could have been Schmida herself. Maybe Schmida called and got this one pulled off for him, but I don't think we'll ever know. Or maybe we will. But anyway, this has been such an interesting... It's almost more interesting that this happened, because if he would have just done a plea deal and, pled guilty and then paid a huge fine, and then he was able to move on. But now it's just like, what is this guy going to do? I can't wait for his first public interview or his first public part that he gets and see how people react to it. It's just going to be crazy because of everything I just said. All right, so I'm going to cut it off there. What a nutso case. I think I'm going to try to get inspired this weekend and do a big, start the big case, the next big case. Yeah, I don't know quite who I'm going to do yet. I want to base it around a big interrogation. So I'm thinking like George Hughley or Philip Markoff. I don't even like telling you because I usually don't end up doing who I say I'm thinking about doing. But Philip Markoff is kind of the forefront right now. But maybe I'll try to, if I decide on someone else, I'll try to tell you guys so you can do some research beforehand, do a little homework. But yeah, anyway, thank you to everybody that's subscribing and commenting and everything. I love you all. Have a great weekend. True Crime Loser out. Why? Stavin' why? Shmita.